Last time round it was top 5 Nikon lenses for full frame, but the thing is there's not actually many Nikon users out there, so this time round it only makes sense to do a top 5 lenses for Canon full frame. Oh yes!
Yes indeed, why the long face? Because it's time to talk rings, red ones that you can mount onto your Canon, and given only the choice of 5, these are the ones I'd heartily recommend. But before we start, a quick thank you to Adorama for sponsoring this video, supporting creators with gear knowledge and inspiration to do what they love.
Wow, suddenly I've got an audience. Let's go.
Call the fire brigade, because this first lens is emoji symbol fire.
Now, some people might say that with high ISO performance being as good as it is today, fast primes are somewhat dead, relics of the film era. Well, how wrong can they be? I mean, even if I said the same thing probably a few weeks ago, how wrong am I? So wrong, very wrong. That's me, I'm very wrong.
This beauty is, subjectively speaking, one of the finest Canon has to offer.
Yes, I know it's all my opinion, but as we're talking about opinions, in my opinion, you'd be nuts not to give the 50mm f1.2 a try. Why? Because this is the finest 50mm lens, not just for Canon, but for any 35mm size sensor autofocusing DSLR.
The 50 f1.2 does autofocus, it is a cool lens, but the focus speed can be a bit glacial at times, but there's hefty chunks of glass in there. It's f1.2 for crying out loud. This is the top spec. Aspherics? Yes. USM? Yes. Weather sealing? Hells yeah. Yeah, but somehow I ended up going the thrifty route and going for the Nifty 50.
And I totally regret not getting this in the first place. Every time you see somebody else using this in public, you'll definitely get lens envy, I tell you.
And you know, when you've got gas, the only way to fix it is to just let rip.
50/50 is just a fancy name anyway. It's kind of like a continental breakfast. It's a fancy name for a bit of French bread and orange juice. But you know, at the end of the day, you prefer full fat, full-on carcinogenic, full English breakfast instead. Forget a fancy bit of French breakfast. Give me a plate of death.
And this L lens has the characteristics to die for.
Bokeh on the f1.8 and f1.4, decent, but decent is just a word to make people who don't have the means to get super bloody awesome to feel better about themselves.
The out of focus elements have plenty of character. It's not like the slightly more sober looking stuff from the f1.8 and even f1.4. This is wild stuff, sometimes a bit too wild, but uniquely it's sharp wide open also.
This thing is sharp, 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 sharp all over.
With high ISO performance being what it is these days, it isn't just a lens for low light, but also good light for that unique effect.
With an f1.2 and super bright sunlight like this, ND filters are your best friend. Well, I don't know why, because the conversation is pretty one way.
When you think portrait lenses, you'll probably instantly think 85 f1.2 or even the f1.4L if you're sensible, and they are both cracking lenses.
Yeah, that's nice, but none of those lenses are titled Lord of the Red Rings. Technically not an official title. I mean, they haven't actually labelled the lens. It's not physically written on the lens itself. It's just a moniker that people of the internet came up with, isn't it?
Don't know who that could be. Anyway, you would think that this is noticeably heavier than its 85mm siblings, but it's not.
One thing you first notice when you pick this thing up is how lightweight it is. I mean, when you compare it to the 85 1.4, f1.2, they are bloody heavy lenses. Love that around all day, and it's been known to create hemorrhoids in some people.
Maybe that lady might not agree, but it's refreshing to have this moderate kind of weight on a longish lens.
And that's because, surprisingly, inside it's quite a simple optical formula, just 10 elements in total, 2 UD elements, and that's pretty much it. Air?
Not hot air though. Focus speed is quick, and despite an uncomplicated design, it is optically top notch.
Ah, this thing is so sharp! It's so sharp! I'm gonna cut my face off with it. Ah! Just cut my face.
This isn't exactly a lens made for bokeh whores, although the bokeh is creamy-licious. Anyone with an appreciation for crisp images will love this 135.
Only thing is, models might be a bit afraid of it because this is sharp enough to show up all the imperfections perfectly.
Okay, so we've had a fast 50, a so sharp it'll cut your teeth out 135. How about something wide?
If you want a fast wide-angle prime, you could consider the 35 f1.4, but that's not properly wide, that's just the loose standard. If you want properly fast, properly wide, you've got to look at this.
Well, don't just look at it, use it. The 35 f1.4 L2 is an excellent lens, but this is a bit more special.
The distortion on this is super low, which is good for people like taking pictures of buildings, architecture photography, or people like taking pictures of test charts.
If you are into test chart photography, 1, what the hell is wrong with you? 2, this is awesome. Although a very slight bit of softness and vignetting wide open, it's still a great lens for stuff like astrophotography. No stars here, but look at how straight those lines are.
It really isn't so much for the bokeh because you have to be really close to your subject to get anything bokeh-ish.
But if you don't mind getting more details in your street shots, it can be useful to have a 24mm lens in a tight space. Unless you've fallen down a well, probably not so useful in that situation. Useful lenses can be considered the best. I said the 24-105 f4.2 is the best. It's so damn practical, like a bum bag, but the 24-105 hasn't been declared hot by hipsters yet. But this will be hot AF. The 70-200mm f2.8 too was amazing, but this is going to be even better because it's the third one.
There are a number of people who buy Canon simply because it's a popular brand, you know, following the herd. But there is good reason to buy the Canon, and that's because of their lenses. Some of them are quite simply phenomenal.
Ugh, dizziness. The 51.2 is a crazy lens. In some ways, no lens needs to be designed like these days, and that's why we love these lenses.
And this is no different. This could be technically described as knucking futs when compared to the 14-24 from Nikon and the 12-24 from Sony. They don't really compare because this is really supreme. This is the best ultra-wide angle zoom lens, autofocusing one, ever.
I used to love the Nikon 14-24mm until I used this Canon. 11mm, 3mm wide doesn't sound like much, but it sucks in a lot more detail.
This is the phone box test. Wow, look how spacious is it. This lens is perfect for real estate agents.
You'll simply love this lens when you see the images you get from it.
I mean, you really shouldn't fall in love with this, mainly because it doesn't have a heart. I mean, you get some funny looks when you try to consummate your newfound adoration for it on the street. But it's quite hard to stop giving admiring glances to that huge, bulbous front element.
Throughout the range, this lens produces the goods. If you want optical perfection, well, you're probably expecting too much, jeez. But this is as close to perfection you can get in an ultra-wide angle zoom.
This is a fantastic lens, but unfortunately it doesn't make the top 5 simply because it's too heavy, it's too big, it's too expensive, and you'll bloody cry when you lose the lens cap to it. It's a very special purpose lens for special uses. Besides, as wide as you'll probably end up photographing your own feet without really knowing it.
How often will you need 11mm? Quite often you'll be trying hard to keep details out of the frame, and if you're not going that wide, go for something less wide.
At its widest, 16mm is more than wide enough for most purposes, so get a 16-35 instead, it's more practical. Actually, practical, get this instead. Live a little, this is the most insane lens you can ever get for your Canon EOS system.
This isn't a list of most alright lenses, these are my 5 lenses that I think are absolute amazeballs, optically special. But what about you? What are your thoughts? What are your favourite Canon lenses in the world ever? Please leave your comments below. So that's the end of that listicle video. I hope you like these kind of listicle videos. If you do, please tickle that like button below. Oh, and also, what else am I getting up to? Well, I've recently shot an F-word. Oh yes, an F-word, all about film cameras. It's been some time since I last did an F-word, yeah. So that's why I'm doing another one. And also lastly, one big shout out to the sponsor of this video. If you ever feel like, oh, I fancy a little bit of gear, or maybe you don't, then maybe check out the links below. That helps support this channel and keeps me going, doing this content. Alright, thank you, see ya.